What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Destiny 2 Black Armory specific video. Today, so we'll be going over all of the Titan changes that came into 2.1.4. Now, I know I'm a little late on the ball, but I really wanted to actually get a feel for the classes and to be able to give my opinion versus playing with it for like a match or two, or you know what I mean. So first up, let's go over something pretty simple. So for the Void subclass, this is the Sentinel Shield. So the final melee combo actually got a buff from 300 to 390, so you do more damage there, and it got a PvE buff in general for 17%, which is pretty good. So I really don't see a lot of people using the Defender a lot unless you're doing the one tree where you have the 2 shield throws and then you put on Doomfang Pauldron so you can do that forever. But I use it fairly often, to be honest, especially in PvE. Sometimes, recently I like using the Sunspot Hammer, and I'll tell you guys why, but also the Melting Point Titan Hammer if I'm not using something like Tractor Cannon to add that debuff for that extra damage. But I really think it feels really good. I think Sentinel Shield was always in a good place in general, especially when it comes to just wiping out a bunch of ads, and I think it just basically made it even better. Going over the Arc subclass, which is Fist of Havoc, this is bottom and top tree specific. So for the Fist of Havoc, it actually got a slam nerf from 325 to 275. And in PvE in general, when it comes to base, elite, and mini bosses, you get a buff by 7%, bosses by 23%, and vehicles by 60%. I really don't see us fighting a lot of vehicles in there, but I do like the thought. So I think this kind of evened it out, especially in PvE, but in general, the slam did get a slight nerf. Don't really notice it a lot, as it was only by 50, so not a lot. Going over top tree specifically, this is terminal velocity. So this is the perk where when you launch your super, the longer you're in air, the more damage it does, and it actually leaves an AoE effect. In the past, it only had 1 or 2 tiers, which tier 1 did 4 hits of the AoE effect, and tier 2 did 8 hits. But now with tier 3, it does 12 hits. So if you actually slam from high enough, it actually lasts for 12 hits, which is pretty cool. So if people are coming up and like, oh crap, like it's only going to be 8 hits, then we can hop back on, and then it gets slapped by the next 4 hits. It's pretty entertaining. Plus that tick damage actually got a buff from 100 to 112, which is pretty interesting. I think a lot of people don't really use the Striker Titan as much, especially top tree, now that everybody can just shotgun you out of your shoulder charge, because the whole thing was use an insurmountable skull for it, and you can just run up and get them. So I really don't see this being anything crazy in PvP, but in PvE, it'd definitely be pretty entertaining to be able to put out a little more DPS. Going over bottom tree, which is the Code of the Juggernaut, so now when you're in your super, the shoulder charge costs 83% less to use, which is freaking insane. And before I give my opinion on that, the Trample Perk actually got a buff from 1 second to 0.5 seconds, so it can be activated a lot faster. And Trample, the perk is basically every time you get a kill, you get super energy back. So you can have a very long super. I've seen a video of a guy actually use bottom tree striker in the Leviathan, and he had the super for an hour. An hour! It's freaking insane. I really like using bottom tree, especially in PvE right now. And in PvP, I mean, having a longer super is always great, plus the shoulder charge costs less. And a few updates back, the shoulder charge actually allows you to hit from farther away. Well, not hit from farther away, but like the lunge feature allows you to like lunge a lot farther. So I definitely like the changes for Code of the Juggernaut in PvE and PvP. It feels really, really good, especially in PvE when you use Syntheseps and there's a lot of ads. Oh man, completely shut them down. Completely shut them down. Again, PvP feels really good. And yeah, going over the Solar subclasses, this actually deals with every single skill tree, but let's go over middle tree, which is Burning Moth. The spin attack got a buff from 65 to 80 per hit. The slam radius actually got a buff from 5 to 6 meters, so when you do the slam, and the projectile does the tracking, actually hits a little like 1 meter farther, if that makes sense. And the projectile tracking actually got a buff, so it can like yeet around corners. It's freaking funny. I didn't really test this out in PvP. I do like Burning Moth for PvP and certain things. It's definitely fun to use. But if you look at the skill tree itself, one perk is the hammer itself, and the other perk is getting health back with the hammer. And most of those perks revolve around like the hammer, and you really don't utilize the hammer a lot when it comes to PvP, but in PvE it still feels really, really good. Like again, it basically just made like the damage a little higher. The one thing that does bother me is that they didn't really address the hit registration when it comes to the spin attack, because I slapped somebody with this thing a few times and it did no damage at all. So again, I think the buffs are great, definitely needs a little more work in my opinion. Going over, this is, I believe, this is bottom tree Solar Titan, which is the Sunspot one. So the Sunspot damage actually got a buff from 25 to 50 per tick, so it actually got a 100% buff, which is pretty cool. So it does double damage now. That's great. People run through your Sunspot and they actually die this time, which that has happened plenty of times, which is fun. Plus the Sun Warrior perk increases all damage output from Sunbreaker by 20% in PvP and 25% in PvE, and now that duration actually got a buff from 3 to 5 seconds as well. So Sun Warrior now basically just gives you what would be considered like maybe Rampage or a version of Kill Clip, I suppose. That's the best way I can describe it when you're in the Sunspot, and then that last 5 seconds. That is freaking awesome. I really like this in both PvE and PvP, because in PvE you get a 25% damage buff. If you add that onto something like Tractor Cannon and you're using an Escalation Protocol Shoddy, all you have to do is be standing in a Sunspot and you could be doing a butt ton of damage to the boss. It's freaking insane. And in PvP, it's the same thing here. Like the subclass itself allows you to get health back, which is pretty cool. So if you hit somebody like with your super, you get health back. Let's say somebody's rushing you, you stand inside your Sunspot, and you can kill them because you have more damage. Even if you don't kill them and they decide to run through your Sunspot, they're most likely going to die because the Sunspot got a damage buff, which is freaking insane. I really love using the Sunspot Titan right now. It's probably in my opinion, it's in a really good place, and I think the only bad thing is that I don't think it's going to be better than the Melting Point Titan, especially in the end game, just because Melting Point has always had a place. It'll always have a place in Destiny 2 PvE endgame activities. But I think people should definitely try out the Sunspot, because if you do have one Melting Titan and one Sunspot Titan, like, you can pump out a lot more damage than you would usually. And those are the changes in my thoughts on Titans in 2.1.4. We're now at the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, but there are 3 things I want to go over. First up, my clan, the D1 Fire Team, is looking for active players in the Destiny community. Our members play all sorts of activities from casual PvE and PvP to the endgame content. If you're actively playing Destiny 2 and want the benefits of a bigger clan, the link to join is below. It'll say clan link. All you have to do is request to join, and myself or one of the admins will approve you. If you're with a smaller clan and want the benefits of a bigger clan, and you have, like, let's say, like 7 to 10 members, I'm just using that as an example, but if you want to come over, just send me a message on any of my social media links and we'll try to get something set up. Number 2, if you want to know how to support me, there's a link below that says best way to support me. That'll take you to a 4-minute video. If you want to go check that out, that would be awesome. But if you don't want to do that, you can always like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and all that good jazz if you want to do any of those things. Lastly, we have a link to the community Discord below. Just a heads up, we're looking for anyone with moderator experience to potentially run the Discord. I know for myself, I'm more of a player instead of a manager, so if you have some moderator experience, just send me a message and we'll try to get something set up. I know for myself, I'm on Xbox, but if you guys would like to talk or chat with me, Discord is going to be the best way to do those things. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this video. We'll catch you next time.